everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Well, we're going to start our webinar. But first of all, I'd like to introduce my partners here. I'm here this night with Fatima Trindade, who is São Paulo Open Center's founder and executive director. Nancy Lake, that I have the honor to be working with, and Sergio Lins, that we've been working together for a while now. So welcome everyone. I hope everybody has had a good day, a rainy day here in São Paulo, but I hope everybody's well and can enjoy the webinar with us tonight. I'm going to ask you to interact with us either via chat, or you can use the question and answer that we're going to answer most questions towards the end of this webinar, or during the webinar itself, depending the connection of the question with the subject we're talking. So I'll start sharing my screen here, and Sergio, Nancy, feel free to add your contributions whenever you want. All right, just confirm to me you can see my presentation, right? It's always the question we do when we're online. So we're all here tonight to talk about developing training skills. This is an area I delved into some years ago, and that has raised my interest. And we don't see many things available, so we decided to discuss a little bit about the techniques, about the skills we need to become a trainer, to start developing other teachers. And I'd like to start talking about 4 strengths that called my attention while reading some books on the topic related to the skills a trainer should have. The first one is knowledge. The second one is understanding. And the third one is training groups, and then training individuals. So in this first part of the webinar, I will go through these areas, and then feel free to ask questions about them while we're discussing it. So when we talk about knowledge, I really like this quote: "To be a teacher, you must know the technique. To be a trainer, you must know why it is effective, be able to articulate or convey that understanding to others, and know how it relates to other aspects of teaching." I like this quote because it pretty much relates to this matrix here. So when we talk about knowledge, we are discussing that a teacher should, if you want to delve into teacher training, you should have teaching experience. So it's the teaching experience we acquire that will help us while training other teachers. You need knowledge of methodological approaches. And then when I put here methodological approaches, when we talk about language teaching, we're talking about language teaching approaches. But here I use the term in a more broader sense, in a wider sense, because you may be training teachers other than language teachers. So when I talk about methodological approaches, we may be discussing active learning, the concepts of formative assessment, how to develop metacognitive skills. So as trainers, we should seek knowledge on that. I don't know if no, I'm back, because I was seeing my camera here. It was frozen, but you can hear me well, right? Okay. So, and then knowing methodological approaches will help you when you talk to teachers, when you talk about lesson planning, when you talk to them about what they can use that will impact the process of teaching and learning. However, a trainer should also have knowledge regarding the educational system. So I saw here in the participants list some former colleagues who works in schools throughout Brazil. And then when you are in different schools in different regions, you should know the context. You should know how that school works. And when we are working only with language teaching in language schools or language institutes, we have one educational system, one concept. But when you go to the way we call here in Brazil the regular education, the regular schools, you must know the laws, the rules that the school, the teachers, they must abide. So it's important that we are aware of the educational system so that what we teach teachers, what we say to teachers, it goes hand in hand with the educational system they have to follow. And the same goes to teaching contexts. What happens, what may work in one school may not work in another school for another group of teachers. So it's important that we have knowledge of these different contexts and how they influence the way we plan our sessions and the way we prepare ourselves to deliver these sessions. Then, how can you develop as a trainer in terms of knowledge? Well, first, as teachers, right? Because as trainers, we're still teachers. We have to read. So, suggestion of reading books, research papers, articles, because this is the way we keep up to date to what's going on in education, new trends, new concepts, things that may influence the way teachers deal with their lessons, with their learners, with the educational system they are embedded. So it's important that we keep on reading. And then it's important that we select reading that are appropriate and according to the context of training we are focusing on. But it's also important that we have a more general idea and that we keep up to date with other things, even though it's not our focus as trainers. Also, it's important that we attend talks, conferences, courses, webinars. So there are plenty of things available. So when we attend a talk, a conference, a webinar, a course, we're there to develop knowledge, but we're also there to develop other skills. You observe, for example, techniques the trainer is using to deliver the session. So then you can learn, okay, a new grouping technique, or you can learn a new management technique, or you can learn a new way to deal with reading tasks in a training session. So when we attend, when we observe others, we can learn new things other than the content and the knowledge we should have to become trainers. And then the second strand comes to understanding. So when I saw this, it was really it really called my attention because here it's where we should look at our trainees. We should focus at our trainees. So what are the experiences they have already had? Good experiences, bad experiences, because all of us can tell a good experience we had as students when we attended a course training, and also bad experiences. So it is important that we are aware of that. And we also need to be aware of our trainees' beliefs, because their beliefs and also their attitudes, they will influence how they react towards your training. So this is of paramount importance, because sometimes in the end of a session, you have the feeling that it was a disaster because you did not consider beliefs and attitudes, and that build a wall between you and the trainees during the session. Also important, what are your trainees' prior knowledge? Because depending on their prior knowledge, this will influence how deep your session will be. Because if we don't consider prior knowledge, we can plan and deliver a session in which they don't they don't see the point of being there. Oh, but these again, we've already seen this many times. There is nothing new to me. But the other way is also true. You may deliver a session in which they have no idea what they learned because it was too deep for their level of development, of experience, of maturity. So it's important to consider here their prior knowledge. And then this quote, expertise in this area isn't simply a question of techniques, but also encompasses soft skills, active listening, empathy, patience, sense of humor, and so on. Here is the moment when we have to be able to put on our soft skills into action. We have to listen to our audience. We have to understand their needs. We have to be able to prepare something that fits their needs at that moment. And sometimes we have a plan, but when you start putting these into action, you may have to adapt or change your session in the middle of the session because it's not working, because you're not reaching your audience. This is something we have to consider when we are trainers. So in terms of understanding, some suggestions if you want to, even if you're already a trainer or if you want to become a trainer to develop, keep teaching if possible, because I know sometimes it's not possible to be in the classroom while you are training, but if possible, keep teaching. But if you're not teaching, keep in touch with teachers, talk to them so that you are in contact with what's going on in the classroom. Speak to trainers and teachers. Research and explore other contexts. When I mention here, speak to trainers and teachers, it's all about sharing. It's important that we are able to discuss, we're able to share experiences with more experienced colleagues, with less experienced colleagues. Everybody gains, everybody learns from sharing experiences. This is important that we build connections, that we have this network of support. And when I mention here, explore different contexts, it is important that you, even though you have a focus, sometimes you are going to be called to deliver a session in a different context in which you are in. So understand different contexts, understand different contexts in terms of, okay, I'm not just dealing with teachers who teach English as a subject. I may have here content teachers teaching using an additional language. So what is the difference? How is this context different from what I'm used to? So have this in mind while you're planning the sessions, while you're developing yourself. And then try to be audience conscious. The training is, after all, about them rather than about you. So this is in planning and in delivering the session. The session is about the trainees, about their needs, about what they want to learn, about what they need to learn, about their professional development. And sometimes it's not about what we think or we assume they need, because, and this happens as teachers sometimes. How many times have you planned a lesson that you thought the context, you were talking about a movie that you think it's wonderful, and then the students didn't react to that because they had never heard of that movie, because it's a movie I enjoy, but I don't even know if my students enjoy, right? So it's the same with training. Sometimes we have assumptions that, and then that reflects into the delivery of the training, and it doesn't have any effect on our trainees. And then the third strand here was about training groups. When we talk about training, it's important that we have in mind, okay, we're going to be dealing with teachers, we're going to have sessions in which we're going to work towards their professional development. However, there is something involved about budgeting and communicating with different stakeholders. Because if you're training a group of teachers, who's hiring you? So you may be a trainer who works for a company, so everything is set. You just need to worry about the training itself. But you may work by yourself. So who do you talk to? Is the school's principal hiring you? It's the coordinator hiring you. Who is hiring you? It's another company hiring you. Sometimes you have to think of how much you are going to charge for your training, for your presentation. And then it goes to some things that are important as well. The training itself. So when you are planning training, is it a single session or an entire program? Because depending on that, it will tell you how deep you can plan. If it's just one session, or if it's an entire program, the level of content you can explore is different. The tasks you can propose are different. Is it online or face to face? This is something to be taken into consideration in our context. So if it is online, what platform are you going to use? Are all your trainees familiar with the platform you are going to use? If it's face-to-face, do you have to take any materials? So when we are training, we're delivering training sessions, these are things we consider. How can I engage the different individuals? Because you're training a group of teachers, but in this group of teachers, you surely have people with different level of professional development, different experiences, different backgrounds. How do you engage them all? And how can you foster collaboration? How can you have a training session in which the group collaborates towards achieving the goals of the session or towards their professional development, individual and as a group? These are things we have to consider as trainers. And then for these area, some things you can do to develop yourself. Collect feedback from trainees. So whenever you deliver a session, try to collect feedback from them so that you get informed of things that might not be working or the ones that are working that you can keep for future sessions that you might consider changing for future sessions. Collaborate with other trainers. Here, for collaboration with other trainers, observe them, be observed. So observe another trainer, ask another trainer to observe you so that both of you can discuss the sessions, the way you deliver the session, the content of the session. So both can profit from this relationship. Attend training. And then as I mentioned, when we attend training to improve our knowledge. So we can learn more things that we can use in our training sessions, but also our training skills, as I mentioned, you learn a new technique, you learn you learn how to use a new tool to use in your session. So we always learn when we attend training. Present at conferences. So we have the call of papers for the Breast TESOL International Conference open, for example. So you can write your proposal and present at a conference. This is a way, if you are a trainer, if you want to become a trainer, you start talking to other teachers. And also keep a journal. This is related to reflective practice. So the journal you can keep with your strengths, your areas of improvement, how you can improve, your research on how you can improve some areas, and then if you tried something new, how that went, oh, it didn't work, and why again. So keeping a journal helping you become a reflective practitioner. So it's also really, really nice for improvement here. And then when we talk about training individuals, we go back to soft skills, because here is where we are in one-to-one sessions, one-to-one moments in which we need to listen actively. We need to have empathy. We need to understand the needs of our trainee. We need to understand mentoring, and then mentoring is different from training. So this is an area that we should also develop further when we are dealing with individual relationships with trainees. And also it's in these area that falls lesson observation, feedback, and assessment practices. So we should be able to, what techniques can I use to give oral feedback, written feedback? And then how much do you know about assessment practices, about criteria for lesson observation? Sometimes we use ready criteria that are ready, but sometimes you may be asked to develop the criteria for observation. So how much do you know about assessment practices that will help you develop those criteria that will inform you and help you develop your trainees? And then in this area, also here, it's important feedback, shadow, mentoring, and feedback conversations. So you observe a more experienced trainer in a mentoring session, in a feedback session. It's also important here to attend training. Ask a more experienced trainer to observe you. So while giving feedback to a trainee, if you observe the lesson, ask someone to observe you. If you cannot ask someone to observe you, you can record. So it can be audio. You record your feedback so that you can listen to it afterwards. I confess that I don't like listening to myself when I record things, but it's really helpful. It's when you start, oh, did I say that? Why did I say that? So you start, it's when you actually reflect on what you did, and you start getting like, okay, this I should change, I should do it differently. And share stories with other trainers, successful stories or things that didn't go so well. Listen to them. Maybe they have already gone through the same thing and they might have a piece of advice for you. So in terms of knowledge, understanding, training groups, training individuals, for me, these are the 4 areas that all together will help shape you as a trainer. Nancy, do you want to say something? No? Sergio, any comments? All right. Do we have any questions here?
Not yet. Just want to remind everyone that you can send your messages in the question and answer button. The chat is disabled, but you can send your questions in the question and answer slot, okay? And we will answer them as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and then we will answer them either typing or orally here, but I will try to answer everyone. All right, so then when we talk about if you are a trainer or becoming a trainer, this is something we've discussed a lot here at São Paulo Open Center. So how can we foster trainer development? And then I have some questions here that I would like all of you to follow with me, because we designed a path for development. So this path, it starts with these 3 questions. Do you have solid experience in teaching? Do you have experience in training? Do you have a C1 level of proficiency, or at least a C1 level of proficiency? If you answered no to all of these questions, we have a path for you. That is a course called Foundations in Teacher Training that I'm going to invite Nancy in a while to talk to us. If you answered yes to these questions, solid experience in teaching, experience in training, C1 level or above, you're going to another path, which is with an international certification that I will present in a while. But for now, I would like to invite Nancy to talk to us a little bit about the, I love the acronym when Nancy presented that to me, to talk about the FiTT, Foundations in Teacher Training. So Nancy, please.
Okay, so I'd like to start out by saying thank you very much for sharing those very important skills. We'll be touching on them very lightly as we build the foundation of our development. As teacher training, we here believe that it's important to encourage teachers to reflect on the importance of good teaching practice and training to achieve it. I'll talk to you a little bit in the next few minutes about this background information, this context of our course. I'll talk to you a little bit about the rationale behind the course itself, some of the course components, and finally, the main focus areas of the course that we have designed for you to get started. If you notice that Cesar mentioned about the importance of knowledge, we need to recognize and consolidate the knowledge that we have of good teaching practice and think about how we're going to train to achieve that. Because in the same way that the learner is the center of our teaching class, the trainee is the center of our training class and needs to learn how to be able to exchange ideas with other teachers and be able to share the knowledge that they have. And this is one of the characteristics that I think we need to keep in mind when we're talking about soft skills, and that is your personality needs to be a generous one. If you're not a very generous person, ask yourself the question, why not, and how you can change that. Another thing that we need to talk about in a course that's basically a foundations course is how to plan development for trainees and trainers. In the same way that we develop things that our learners can do in the classroom, things that they can study, things that they can work on, give them ways to achieve their success, we can help our trainees do the same thing. And we ourselves need to participate actively in our own development. So the idea here is to encourage teachers to reflect on the importance of good teacher training, good teaching practice, and also to think about where they're going, where this path is going to take them. And that's one of the other things we'll be sharing with you this evening. I'd also like to talk to you in the next slide a little bit about the rationale behind this course. This course believes that feedback is important for growth. And this takes into account that once you get feedback in whatever walk of life you have, feedback is very important for you to grow, to understand, to improve what you're doing, and to think more about what you can do to improve. So building towards giving feedback is the essential foundation of good training. It is the mortar and the brick of a solid foundation. It's the solid rock. Being able to give feedback, to know how to do it is essential. So future trainers need to be, first of all, aware of building about learning and teaching beliefs. We have to have strong teaching beliefs. We need to know the beliefs of the trainees. This is what we were talking about before. We need to be able to perceive their needs, to develop something for them, and be able to give them the appropriate type of feedback through observation of what they can do to improve and how they can enhance their own professional growth. Teachers need to identify good teaching practices before working on any kind of training practice. What makes a good class? What is interesting? How are my learners learning? What kind of brain architecture are we working on here? How can I help them to learn more effectively? And how can I help train them to help their own learners actually learn more effectively? So this is one of the very important rationale moments that we have in our course. And of course, all teaching and training occurs in context. Everything we do occurs in context. So as Cesar mentioned, we need to keep the context in mind when we're training as well. In terms of the 4 components, we have 30 contact hours. That's 12 sessions of 2.5 hours. There'll be a break in each session. It's very important to realize that there needs to be some self-study, so there'll be some reading, which is one of the skills that a trainer needs to develop, and some preparation before. We will also do some video, and we'll do a video of a micro-teaching activity of our choice. So you're going to choose an activity that you really feel successful at, so we can analyze it in terms of good, positive teaching practice. And then we'll actually walk through a micro-training activity that will show us how we can develop a way to train someone to perform that activity, to deal with that activity in the same way. And finally, the actual elements that we're going to be including are, starting in pretty much in this order, understanding good teaching and training practices, the awareness of roles of planning for good practice, because we know that planning is the essence of any good class that we give. We plan and then we prepare. We work through it, we change, make some online changes. But the roles of planning and good practice need to be worked on thoroughly in training as well. You can't just go in and say, this is the way I do it, and suggest that that's going to be successful for somebody else. We also need to recognize and develop training expertise. So by recognizing it, we'll be able to identify it by observing other classes, and we'll be able to develop our own training expertise through models and discussion and reflection. We also then will focus on the second half of the course in the role of feedback and observation in professional development, how to make it successful for all involved, for the learners, especially for the teachers, for the trainers, and for those who are supervising the whole operation. And besides that, we're going to be talking about applying principles of feedback to teaching and training. But the principles of feedback that we're going to be learning will be working not only with teachers, but in life as a life skill as well. We'll be planning a training session, and we'll be talking about how to develop our training skills as we look on the future of development. So the idea is that all of the aims are to build awareness of fundamental issues in teacher training and trainer development, give us a good solid base so that we can focus on other things, other types of certificates that can enhance this whole development process. So I guess I'll turn over. Do you have any questions here? I didn't see any.
Yeah, actually, there is one that I'd like you, Nancy, and Sergio to help me answer, because it's a very interesting question here. Is there a right moment one knows they can become a trainer? I wouldn't say there is a right moment. I think for me, it was more of a feeling that, for me, it all happens when I was taking my CELTA course, that I saw my trainers and I said, oh, one day I would like to be a trainer like them. So that was the moment that spark came to me, and then I focused my professional development towards that. But I don't know, Nancy, Sergio, if you think there is a right moment.
I think this is part of the right moment. The part of the right moment is identifying with the trainer, seeing that person as somebody whom you would like to emulate, somebody that you think you could do the same thing with the right kind of orientation. And I think also the right moment is when you're willing to spend time developing outside of the classroom. Because sometimes we are so busy with our classes, we say, so I'm in the classroom, I want to keep teaching, but what else can I do to help my learners learn better? Once you get that layer, it's like an onion. You have your desire for the learners to improve, then you have a desire for the teachers to improve. And once again, this tremendous desire to be generous with what you know. Because it's the one right moment is happening right now with people taking the first step. I think that's always a big one. I don't know how Sergio feels about that as well.
I agree with you, Nancy. I think that there's no key answer for that, but I would say that you would need to have this passion for helping others. So helping everyone at school, helping all the teachers to develop, being willing to share ideas, and also being willing to be observed. So because people want to see you as a role model. So are you open for that? Open to see and show your practice and show how you impact learning after all? Because when we train teachers, we're aiming at the classroom success with learners. So if you're willing to open your classroom and help others, share your ideas, share your passion for teaching, I think this is very important. And not to mention that experience and getting qualified, like a course like the FiTT, and learning how you can do that in a better way. So this would be essential as well.
Thank you, Nancy and Sergio. And then, as I showed you all that path, the FiTT, Foundations in Teacher Training, is a course. It's the foundations course, as the name says. So if you're thinking of, okay, I think I want to start working as a trainer, I want to develop myself as a trainer, or if you are already a trainer but you want to gain more confidence, you don't have enough experience. And now you I don't know if you all noticed, but São Paulo Open Center's logo is already celebrating our 10th anniversary. So it's been a long journey. Fatima is here, and so it's our 10th anniversary this year. And to celebrate this 10th anniversary, we're going to announce a new partnership. We started talking about and delving into documentation, writing course proposals for this partnership in August last year, but we're proud to announce our partnership with Trinity College London. So we are already a validated course provider. And with Trinity, our first partnership, but before I talk about our first partnership, Trinity is always celebrating their 150th anniversary this year. So Trinity is a bit older than SPOC. So Trinity is an internationally recognized board that deliver language exams and certifications, qualifications for teachers. So for our first partnership with this board, which I'm really happy to be part of that, of designing the course and being one of the tutors with Sergio. We're going to start offering here in São Paulo Open Center the certificate for practicing teachers, the CertPT, trainer development. So this certification was entirely designed by SPOC, the content. It was validated by Trinity, so it's part of our path for trainer development. It has a focus on those trainers who already have some experience and have been training for a while. So you can take the FiTT, then the CertPT. So it's our path. And in order to talk about the CertPT, I'd like to invite Sergio to give some information to everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Cesar. Well, the CertPT is a level 6. The first thing we need to remember, why is the FiTT and the CertPT happening at the São Paulo Open Center? As Nancy mentioned, the FiTT are for those who want to start a career in teacher training or develop some of the skills in teacher training, or brush up their training skills, and learn more about these universe, I would say the whole world on teacher training. The CertPT is a moderated course by Trinity. So having said that, we have all the prescriptive information by Cambridge. It's a level 6. You might be asking, what does it mean? It's a certificate between level 5 and 7. So we offer at São Paulo Open Center the CELTA course, and we are also starting to offer the Delta Module 1, which is a level 7. So the CertPT is in between those two courses. So if you have already taken, you've got experience, you've taken an initial training qualification, and Cesar, you mentioned all the requirements and soon, and you're thinking of maybe in the future applying for the Delta on Module 3 on teacher training or academic management, for example, the trainer development course may be a wonderful opportunity for you to start preparing for that. Why? You have 100 hours of live sessions with the tutors, and we'll discuss more in-depth details on training development and how you could develop further from the trainer. It leads on, it connects quite well and develops and expands from the last session that Nancy mentioned on trainer development. If you remember well the list of units that she has on her course, the trainer development is one of them. So we aim to develop your skills further. So we have 100 hours, 100 contact hours, including live sessions, reading and research, and assignments. So different from the FiTT, where you wouldn't have moderated assignments, you are asked to read and research and go more in depth on some topics, and you would need to write different assignments in 4 different areas, which are moderated. They are internally assessed, but are also moderated by Trinity, and that'll be very important for you to develop your training skills and get feedback on that. And remember that it's all context specific, so you can focus on an area that Cesar mentioned in the beginning. So if you work in schools, you can focus on the context that you're working with. If you work in a private language institute, you could also work on that. If you are aiming to train teachers at university programs, so you could also develop your training skills based on the training scenario that you work with. So that might be very important for you to consider, because we are willing to help you in different training areas that you work at the moment. So that will be what we do. Everything's externally moderated by Trinity. So that is an important thing to mention. So your certificate is validated and moderated by Trinity with us. The course takes 12 weeks. Sazaha is writing there on the right. You would see that there are 2 different courses at the moment. We have one on Saturdays and one on Wednesdays. Is it correct, Sazaha? And one is on Saturday afternoons and the other one is Wednesday evenings. So you would have a 12-week course with us. And as I mentioned, as it's externally moderated, and you can also research and learn more about your area of trainer development. The 4 assignments, they scaffold on 4 different sub areas, I would say. First, you would evaluate some training materials. So that would be important. You would get a piece of training material, possibly one of those that you learned with Nancy in the first course you haven't taken if you're taking the trainer with us, or any other training material that you like to that you use in your scenario already, and you evaluate that piece of training material. You would write about it, around 1,000 words on that topic. Then you would consider how you could adapt on a second assignment. You could adapt and enhance the training material that you have adapted, the same training material, another one that you like to adapt from one reality that you have. The third assignment, it goes more in depth. You would need to create a training material. You've got some work to do on that. So you would have to create some training material. Again, for those who have done the course with Nancy, if you do the course with Nancy or the trainer before with us, you have already been asked to write a mini training. You will have experience with that. So as you can see, we are communicating and making sure to scaffold learning from one to the other. And in the end, you would reflect on how you would apply that material and reflect on the practice of that. So as you can see, we also aim to start from more theory to a more practical. That's why the name of the certificate is Certificate for Practicing Teachers. We want to ensure that from the practice that you learn and research from, in the end, you apply that and reflect more on your own training reality. So that's what we would offer at the course.
And then just adding here, the assignment in which you have to reflect, you're going to deliver either the material you adapt or the material you created. You need to deliver. It's a micro training, and you're going to deliver to your colleagues in the course, and you're going to give feedback to one another on the materials, on the micro training session, so that you have you gather your evidences for your reflection material. So it's an in-depth course in which you were going thoroughly in training. And as I mentioned, we talked a lot about context here today. So the course itself, Sergio, now you help me here. It's going to focus on andragogy and needs analysis. So when we're talking about training, we're talking about teaching adults, and that differ from teaching kids and teenagers. So we're going to go on that and how that impact our sessions.
But for those who teach young learners, don't feel sad. Soon you get more years as well. So yes, so you will have more years on that. That's the focus on is to make sure that we impact the teaching of young adults and adult learners as well.
Context of professional development, the role of the trainer. So here it is important to mention that when you are a trainer, you may be training only language teachers, but you may be training teachers from all other subject areas. So we're going to discuss a little bit about different contexts and the role of the trainer in this different context, and then how that impact the materials for your training and the planning for your training sessions. And then, of course, as we have the assignments, also we need to talk about analyzing and evaluating different training resources, how we justify adaptation and supplementation of training resources. So it's not just, okay, this is nice, this is not. How can I justify? What's the
That's why you
theory
have to just
behind
lots
that?
of research. That's why you have to do the research behind behind the justification and analysis of the training material.
And then instructional design, we're going to discuss on how you design your sessions, how you can, because when we talked about training individuals, training groups, how you can foster engagement, how you can cater for their needs in terms of designing your sessions. Lesson observation and feedback, which is quite important for us as trainers to delve deeper into lesson observation and feedback. Assessment practices, mainly assessment for learning. That's what we want to, because we want to develop our trainees. And then reflective practice and continuous professional development, because it's always a cycle. And Sergio has already mentioned the 2 groups we have for our to start the course. So the first one, Saturdays afternoon, 12 weeks. It starts in March. The second group on Wednesdays night, it starts in April. We're always going to close enrollment a week before the course starts so that we can set everything. And different from the foundations in teacher training, for the CertPT, we have a process to follow. Again, this is externally moderated. It's an off-call regulated. It's a certification which is recognized all over the globe. So you go through the application form. Once you filled out the application form, you are invited for an interview. And then after the interview, if you fit the criteria to be part of the group, if you are an experienced trainer or you have solid experience in teaching, the language level to cope with the academic assignments, then you enroll in the course. In a while, I will share the link here for our application form, but our website is already has already been updated in terms of you have all the information there as well. And then, as we mentioned, a lot of context. This is from a report from UNESCO, which is, those who know me, you will see this quotes in many of my presentations, because I really think this is something we have to focus. So context-specific approaches promote teaching practices that are consistent with the principles of effective teaching, but also systematically assist teachers to translate those principles into locally adapted applications. And as trainers, we need to bear this in mind, so that our training has a greater and a deeper impact in the development of our trainees. So I mentioned in the beginning, think of good and bad experiences you've had as a learner, as a trainee. How can you emulate the good ones to your trainees, and how can you avoid the bad ones? So this is something I have in my mind, that I always want to be for my trainees the best tutor, the best trainer I've ever had, that had an impact on my development. So this is important as trainers. And then I'd like to open for questions. If you have questions, you can type here in the chat. And then before I stop sharing my screen so that the 4 of us become bigger here for me, if you have questions, if you want to reach us by email, academico@sanpauloopencenter.com.br. This is our WhatsApp number. If you have questions about the courses, or if you're not sure which one would be the best for you, keep in touch. Get in touch with us. We can schedule a call so that we can discuss the best route for your professional development. So then I'll stop sharing my screen here. We don't have any other questions here, do we? I don't think so. Well, I'll give some time if anybody has any question, if you want to put questions about FiTT. Oh yes, there is one here. Okay, what are the differences between this qualification and the train the trainer? I'll start saying, and then Sergio and Nancy can help me. I would say the FiTT, the foundations, is more similar to the train the trainer, because it's for those who are starting their journey. And train the trainer was you were awarded a certificate of completion, right, Sergeant Fatima? It was a certificate of completion. The CertPT is an off-qual regulated, and the off-qual is it's a UK board that regulates exams and qualifications in England, and because of this regulation is the reason certifications regulated by off-quals are widely accepted around the world. So this is the main difference, being an off-qual regulated, and it's more in depth than the train the trainer. When we write the assignments, when you create, evaluate, adapt, create your own training materials, it's more in depth than the train the trainer was, because the train the trainer was an introductory course. So I would say the FiTT is more similar to the train the trainer.
Yeah, not to mention that the train the trainer had no specific assessment for completion. It was more a participation, and you would share your ideas. So there was no assessment in terms of validating how much you participated and things like that. We would give you feedback, but as it's regulated by off-quals, we need external moderated and all the assessments done there.
And then
there's another question.
You need to meet the minimum criteria to pass the course.
And remember, it's a level 6 course, so it's not an introductory course. We expect trainers to have some level of experience so that they can cope with the course requirements as well. There is another question here. Are the sessions face-to-face or online? And they're live online sessions, right, Cesar? And most of the sessions will be live online.
Yeah, the course is 100% online via Zoom. We're not offering face-to-face for now, maybe in the future. Well, again, if you want to reach us, the email I showed, academico@São Paulo Open Center in British English, center, .com.br. So you can send us an email. I'll be glad to answer you. We can even schedule a moment to talk about your professional development. So I'd like to thank Nancy for being here with us, Sergio, Fatima, and everybody who participated, and I hope to see some of you or all of you in our future courses. Have a good night.
Looking forward to meeting all of you.
Me too. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.